severing a human head, 2 of them, at night in front of my mother's residence, with her at home, my neighbors at home upstairs, their picture window open, the curtains open. 11 o'clock at night, the lights are on. All they have to do is walk by, look out, and I've had...
Have you ever wondered what happens when a 6'9", sexually frustrated genius with mommy issues spends his teenage years locked in an asylum, only to get released into the 1970s California college scene? Well, it involves a 1969 Ford Galaxy 500, hitchhiking co-eds, and bodies. Just so many bodies. Hey guys, welcome back to Sick and Awful. My name is Brian, and today we're talking about the big boy, Edmund Kemper. Edmund Kemper, aka the co-ed killer, was a towering serial killer and necrophile active in California in the early 1970s. With a genius-level IQ, severe mommy issues, and a history of animal cruelty, he started young, murdering his grandparents at 15. Released from a psychiatric hospital at 21, he turned to killing hitchhiking college women, eventually targeting his abusive mother and her friend. Known for his chilling composure, Kemper confessed to all of his crimes and has subsequently become a fascinating case study in criminal psychology. Born in Burbank in 1948, smack dab in booming post-war California, Ed III was the middle child and only son of Edmund Jr. and Clarnell. His father, a returning World War II vet, struggled to adjust to civilian life. A tough enough gig made infinitely worse by Clarnell, a drunken, emotionally abusive, man-hating battle axe who could easily redefine the term toxic mother.
My mother was a sick, angry, hungry, and very sad woman. I hated her, but I wanted to love my mother. She had terrible pain from her life, a failed marriage with my father. I'm a constant reminder of that failure.
Ed's childhood didn't exactly scream happy family. His father checked out emotionally and later physically, leaving Clarnell to run the show with her stranglehold of control. And sure, Ed wasn't exactly a dream child. Even from a young age, it was clear
that boy ain't right.
Obsessed with death, his favorite game with his sisters was one called Gas Chamber, where he would force them to throw a mock execution as he writhed on the floor.
Well, the one I remember someone talking about in a book was one that was playing Gas Chamber or Electric Chair or something.
Which, sure, creepy, but let's be fair. Kids play all kinds of creepy games. There's the elevator game, Bloody Mary, Ouija boards. But what he did with his sister's dolls and the family cats, well, that's a whole different kettle of fish. Despised by Clarnell, Ed was constantly viewed as a threat to his sisters because of his size and general weirdness, leading to serious attachment issues, low self-esteem, and a tendency towards sociopathy. Case in point, when their pet cat preferred his sisters, Ed buried it alive, later digging it up to put its head on a stick. This lack of maternal care leading to emotional instability has been studied, most notably with the Harlow monkey experiment, which was published the same year Ed Kemper was born.
Let me show you a monkey raised on a nursing wire mother.
In this study, it showed that infant primates preferred the warmth and comfort of a substitute mother that was fluffy as opposed to a wire mesh one that provided food.
He's back on the cloth mother, and he'll stay on the cloth mother. Actually, this baby spends from 17 to 18 hours a day on the cloth mother, and less than 1 hour a day on the
The
wire
conclusion of
mother.
this study is that comfort and nurturing is more important than basic needs. As Clarnell became more controlling and abusive, Ed's father was pushed away and eventually out of the house, leaving Ed alone with his unhinged mother. By the age of 9, Clarnell decided the best way to protect herself and her daughters was to lock Ed in a windowless basement, accessible only through a hatch covered by a kitchen table. Night after night, the young Ed sat alone in the dark, stewing in rejection. His mother viewed him with disdain. His father had left. The anger, the budding violent fantasies began to take hold. By the age of 13, already 6 foot tall, Ed's behavior escalated, setting fires, peeping on neighbors, and minor acts of vandalism. His fights with Clarnell hit a boiling point, and he ran away to live with his father. However, Ed found that Dad had already remarried with a new family, and wasn't thrilled to welcome this towering cat-killing son into the fold. His new wife gingerly suggested that they find somewhere else for him to live. Anywhere else. Rejected again, Ed ended up with his grandparents, Ed Sr. and Maud, after Ed had called Ed to take care of Ed.
It started coming to a head again, so I went back down. I ran away back down there. And then a month later, I'm up living with my grandparents in the mountains, and 10 months later, I murdered them.
Maud, an artist and writer, was hard-nosed and had no patience for Ed's budding hobbies, which now included his new favorite hobby, massacring every single small animal that happened to cross the sights on the rifle his grandpa got for him. Stop buying the violent teenagers guns! Can we make that a rule? When Maud called him out on his personal genocide, Ed responded in the best way he could think, by shooting her in the back of the head, dragging her body to the bedroom, stabbing her repeatedly with a kitchen knife so hard that it bent the knife, sitting on the porch patiently waiting for his grandfather to return to shoot him too. This is what I'm saying about rifles and violent teenagers. When police arrived, they found 15-year-old Ed sitting on the porch. His explanation? He just wanted to see what it was like to kill his grandma, and offed Grandpa because he didn't want him to see what had happened.
It made it worse to be on top of a mountain. I was literally on top of a mountain when it happened. And I sensed everybody in the world just stopping what they were doing, turning around, saw what I did, and were coming to get me. And I knew I was paranoid at that moment. I knew anybody that came up there and gave me a funny look or a fishy eye or quizzical look, I'd have blown their brains out thinking they were coming to get me. And if it had been in a city, I would have been a mass murderer at age 15.
Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, Kemper was sent to Atascadero State Hospital. There, he charmed staff with a mix of manipulation and feigned compliance. By 21, they deemed him no longer a threat. However, over the objections of doctors, nurses, staff, even the churro salesman, they released him into Clarnell's care.
Atascadero decided that I didn't ever need to talk to her again at all. Don't give her a Christmas present. Leave her alone. She got her pound of flesh out of you. I wasn't sniveling about my mother to them. I didn't like to hear what they had to say about her. She went through 3 husbands like a hot knife through butter.
That brings us to 1971. The Doors and Three Dog Night blared from the radios. A Clockwork Orange played in theaters. And Kemper, 6'9" and 300 pounds, stepped into a world that would soon find themselves regretting his release.
4 months after I was out, I was back into the fantasy bag.
Living with Clarnell went about as well as you'd expect. She gave him a room, but no support, blaming him for ruining her social life. Ed tried to occupy himself, enrolling in college, but soon dropping out, applying to the highway patrol, but he was denied for being too large, and hopefully just everything else, and finally landing a job with the highway department. To celebrate, he bought a motorcycle, only to crash it into a car and obliterate his left arm. Recovery left him with limited mobility, but the insurance settlement left him with enough money to get his own apartment and upgrade to a 1969 powder blue Ford Galaxy soft top, spacious trunk, decent mileage, and disturbingly well suited for his new favorite activity, picking up hitchhikers for reasons like murder. With his shiny new Ford Galaxy and a simmering well of unresolved mommy issues, Ed hit the roads of Santa Cruz County. Hitchhiking was a common activity in the 70s. It was a cheap, convenient way to get around. Unfortunately, it was horrifyingly dangerous, especially when your driver is a 6'9" sociopath with a very deep trunk. Kemper's first victims were Marianne Pesky and Anita Lucchesa, 2 18-year-old college students hitching a ride to Stanford University. Kemper lured them in with his friendly demeanor and casual banter. Once they were trapped in the car, he drove them to a secluded area, killed them, and stuffed their bodies into his trunk. Later, he brought their remains back to his mother's house, where he dismembered them in his bedroom.
Severing a human head, 2 of them, at night in front of my mother's residence, with her at home, my neighbors at home upstairs.
The murders became his twisted ritual. He picked up young women, typically college-age students, women that would usually reject him. offering them rides with his towering gentle giant act. Once they were isolated, Kemper would kill them, either through strangulation or stabbing, then bring their bodies home for further desecration. What made Kemper especially disturbing wasn't just the murder, it was the aftermath. As is common with many serial killers, he kept trophies. But in Kemper's case, he kept parts of his victims, often engaging in necrophilic acts before disposing of their remains. It was systematic, methodical, and deeply, deeply depraved. Between May of 1972 and February of 1973, Ed killed 6 young women, including Cindy Shaw, Rosalind Thorpe, and Alice Liu. He honed his skills with each killing, evading police and earning the trust of his victims with his safe and unassuming demeanor. Not everyone he picked up would end up a victim. Often he would get nervous or the mood wasn't right.
My mother worked at the campus and I had an A sticker on my car, an obvious access day or night to the campus. I was picking up some very lovely young women. You know what we were talking about as we're driving around? Almost as often as not, this guy that's going around doing this stuff. And the second they started talking that, they didn't realize it, but they were getting a free ride.
He was even able to strike up friendships with local law enforcement, casually chatting with the officers at bars frequented by cops investigating the very murders he was committing. Ed's reign of terror finally culminated in April 1973, when he turned his rage towards the ultimate target, Clarnell. After years of abuse, belittlement, and resentment, Kemper bludgeoned his mother to death with a claw hammer, decapitated her like he had with so many other victims, and used her head for depraved, unspeakable acts. Not just content with one victim, he invited his mother's friend, Sally Hallett, over for a dinner and killed her as well. After murdering Clarnell and Sally, Ed calmly fled Santa Cruz, driving for days and waiting for the police to connect the dots. After it became clear they weren't quite on his trail, he made a move no one saw coming. He turned himself in.
I did. I came in out of the cold. And what I'm saying is there are some people who prefer it in the cold.
Calling the cops from a payphone, Kemper confessed to everything, rattling off details of his crimes like he was reciting a grocery list. At trial, Kemper was almost eager to accept his fate. He pled guilty to the 8 murders, including his mother's, and was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Currently housed in the California Medical Facility, Kemper has been a model prisoner. And by model, I mean he records audiobooks and actually has groupies. To this day, Kemper's case is a disturbing blend of genius, pathology, and the deeply unsettling impact of trauma. He's the human equivalent of staring into the abyss. A chilling reminder that monsters don't just live under your bed. Sometimes they can be raised in your house. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell for notification, and until next time, toodaloo.